I teach an advanced interpersonal communication class, and
Eastern. Okay.
yeah, and they, for their major group project, they go off-site. They study interpersonal encounters off-site. And that first year, we went to Mattoon Middle School and studied bullying, which was very, very interesting. And this increased my interest tremendously. And then last year, I proposed a panel and did a paper for the National Communication Association conference, and it was also on bullying. And my argument was that we need my discipline to get involved in doing research on bullying, communication studies or speech communication. Yeah, it does, because it's a fundamentally communicative activity, so we ought to be looking at this. In addition to the fine work being done by psychologists and education scholars and that sort of stuff, we have a communicative perspective, which I argue would be very, very helpful. And that's because I really see bullying as, rather than taking a look so much at the characteristics of the bully or the victim or the bystanders, I see it as a situated social activity. It's situated in a particular social structure and in a particular culture. And that's where the bullies get the resources to use to do the bullying. And those are also the things then that the victim is going to have to address, right, is whatever's being thrown at them. And so how do they all construct that? They construct it from communicative resources in that particular environment. So I got real excited about that and made that argument. And then just a month ago, I decided in preparation for this that I would do a survey of Eastern students, and I included some objective questions, but also some qualitative questions. And I asked them about both physical bullying, verbal emotional bullying, and relational bullying, and I asked them about that at both K through 12 and at college. And I'm particularly interested at the college level because we have much less research at the college level than we do K-12. We have a lot K-12, which is good, but we have very little, and believe me, I've looked hard, and we have very little at the college level.
Do you think we've just redefined it? Instead of calling it bullying on the college level, then maybe we just call it harassment or sexual harassment?
Well, I think this is part of what I was looking for in the survey that I did. What do we do? And I think that it's more subtle at the college level. I think we have some ideas about college students too that are different than K through 12. So, and I'll talk a little bit about that as well. But certainly, it doesn't mean that we don't have research. Does not mean that there is no bullying going on at the college level, right? You and I both know that. Yes, there is. And so that's really where I'm focusing at this point. I really want to know about that. I'm using a case here as an exemplar, and that case concerns Darun Ravi and Tyler Clemente. Are you guys familiar with that case?
I think so, if I remember the names right.
Okay. Let me tell you a little bit about Tyler Clemente and Darun Ravi, and I'll just read this little bit to you. In March of last year, Darun Ravi, a first-year Rutgers student, was found guilty of 4 counts of invasion of privacy, 4 counts of bias intimidation, that's New Jersey's hate law, and additional counts of tampering with evidence and witnesses. These crimes were committed against his first-year Rutgers roommate, Tyler Clemente, and Clemente's male guest, and occurred when Ravi himself and his friend and dorm mate viewed Clemente's sexual encounter via his webcam, via Ravi's webcam, which Ravi had pointed toward Clemente's bed. Ravi had set his computer to automatically accept iChat messages from friends and acquaintances at Rutgers and elsewhere, other colleges as well. And prior to the prearranged encounter, Ravi had texted, tweeted, posted invitations to what he described as a viewing party in his dorm room. 2 nights after the first viewing, Ravi again set up the webcam and computer and again texted, tweeted, posted, and talked to friends and acquaintances, encouraging, sometimes daring them to watch Clemente's second encounter with this male guest. The night following the second attempt, Tyler Clemente used the cell phone he had with him to send the following final status update, you know, on Facebook you do status updates, the final status update to his Facebook page, and that status update was jumping off GW Bridge, sorry. His body was found in a river a week later. Ravi's course of conduct does fit current conceptualizations of bullying. It was repeated, it was targeted. There was a power imbalance between the two because Tyler Clemente is a gay man in a predominantly heterosexual culture, which provides him fewer resources and less support than Robbie would have as well. There's a victim, there's a victimizer, and there certainly were bystanders. Notice that some of those bystanders were via new media, right, tweets and toast and all that sort of stuff, but also some face-to-face. They were in the same dorm, they were roommates in the same dorm. There's a lounge area where both of them walked through. He invited some of those folks. He invited those folks
to again view him. He even got one of the dorm mates to help him set up the camera to make sure that it was recording correctly or whatever.
Would that be considered more than bystander behavior, though? I mean, that's to me almost an active participant. If they're helping, if they know what it's for, would that still be considered bystander?
He was not charged. The guy who helped him was not charged with anything. And remember, when we talk about bystander roles, you can either have bystanders who try to intervene, helpfully, or you can have bystanders that become the henchmen that help bully.
But still not the.
It's not just that you're, yeah, you're not this passive. In fact, bystanders are so important. That's the whole point, is the bystander. So, so very completely fits all of our current conceptualizations. I argue that the relationship between the bully and the victim is fundamentally based upon, it's constructed as an antagonistic relationship. So I'm the protagonist. If I'm the bully, you're the antagonist. It's me against you. It can be actually a quite interpersonal relationship. They sometimes come to know one another pretty well. It's useful to the bully to find out about their victim. That gives them more things that they can use to victimize. It's useful for the victim to find out about the bully, because then they might know some ways that they could maybe manage it. And in fact, we know that Darun Ravi Googled Tyler Clemente before coming on Rutgers campus, and actually found out a good deal of information about him. It's kind of scary what people can find out about you just by Googling you or whatever, especially if they're computer savvy, as Ravi was very much.
But I don't know why he just didn't ask for another roommate, for gosh sakes.
On the first night, after the first night of viewing, Tyler Clemente requested, he reported the incident.
I mean, the Indian kid, the Ravi?
Ravi.
I thought he did find out information about him, and I think didn't they actually either meet over the phone or meet in person?
They did not meet over the phone or in person.
Before he got to the campus? But I got the impression that Robbie knew he was a gay student.
He did know. He did know. He had done that. He did that all by computer.
So I thought, my thinking was that when I heard about this is why Robbie just didn't ask for another roommate.
Well, hopefully we'll take a look and maybe we can explain some of why he didn't do that. It is true that Tyler Clemente, after the first viewing, reported it and requested a room change, and the resident advisor did what they were supposed to do. They went to the resident director with it, but they did not make that room change then. And I believe had they acted then, Tyler Clemente might be well and good. A couple of other things about both Ravi and Clemente. Ravi was a very extroverted young man, so he belonged to a lot of social networks, really liked being a part of those social networks. Tyler Clemente was more of an introverted, more quiet individual. He was in the symphony. I forget what instrument he played, but he was apparently very good. He was invited, as a freshman, to be in the graduate symphony, so very, very talented musician, but more quiet, not as social as Ravi was. And Ravi was very computer savvy, very, very techno savvy. His computer was a big deal, had a lot of things that he could do. So I'm going to take a communicative view and using this example. And in order to do that, the first thing I need to do is talk about the kinds of goals that we all pursue in communicative encounters, including the one that we're having right now. I might become unattached, so I think that I'll just hand this to you. There you go. The title of this talk was originally Hetero, 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 and then Exploring Communicative Resources. And my point with that was that to take a look at why is it that gay, gay, gay can be used to bully a middle school kid, and we heard that at Mattoon Middle School. This little kid Little boys,
Yeah.
gay. Why is it that gay works, but hetero wouldn't work at all? I mean, people would say, you're stupid, you don't even know what you're talking about. That's, again, because of the communicative resources that we have here. So you should be looking at this side that starts with hetero. And here we talk about these 3 kinds of goals that people pursue in every conversation, including the one that we have right now. The first kind of goal is what we call an instrumental goal. And the instrumental goal, so when I'm sending messages to you, the instrumental goal concerns the overt pragmatic purpose of my utterance. So what is my instrumental goal here right now? Why am I standing up here talking? To inform you, right. So my instrumental goal is to inform, to give information. And why are you guys here? To learn, to get information. So those are our instrumental goals. It's the overt stated goal. We have some other ones that I've listed. Sometimes we say something to somebody to persuade them, right, to do something. Sometimes we make a request of somebody. If I ask if I can borrow your pencil, what's the purpose of that? To get you...
Give you a pencil.
Yeah, to get the pencil. That's my instrumental goal, is to get the pencil, get you to comply. What's the instrumental goal of telling a joke? Entertainment, to get somebody to laugh, right? Comforting, when your best friend's boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife breaks up, you go to comfort. So those are the overt, pragmatic kinds of goals that we pursue in conversation. Second kind of goal that we pursue at the same time are relational goals. So at the same time that I'm trying to get information or request or whatever, I'm also constructing a kind of relationship with you. When we think about the relational goals, we think about power. Sometimes I say some things to try to become more powerful, to exert power over you. Sometimes I say some things to defer to your power. So we can take a look at the power distribution as a relational goal. We take a look at intimacy and distance as a relational goal, right? Sometimes I say some things to create more closeness between us. Like what? What do we say to get closer to somebody?
Relate on an empathetic or emotional level.
If you want to get more intimate, you want to get this relationship to be a closer relationship.
Tell me more about yourself.
Okay, tell me more about yourself. Well,
Say I love you.
okay, I love you also works to increase the affection of the relationship, which is another kind of relational goal. When you hear people say, I miss you, we haven't talked in a long time, right? I'm trying to get closer. We also sometimes try to get more distance in a relationship. Think about when you're really frustrated with your romantic partner. What kinds of things do we say to get more distance?
I need some space.
Yeah, I need my space. I need to pursue this as my own thing. We're spending too much time together. We're getting on each other's nerves. That's to create more distance in the relationship. And then affection, right? We say I love you to create more affection in a relationship. And the other side of affection is hostility. We say some things to create hostility. And clearly bullying is one of those kinds of things to create that hostile, antagonistic relationship that is constructed there. Finally, the third kind of goal that we pursue in conversation are identity goals. And these are very important. Identity goals have to do with creating, maintaining, or changing a particular identity. And we all have to do this. We do this in every single communicative encounter we have, because when you communicate with somebody, you have to be somebody. I have to be somebody, and you have to be somebody. So we walk up, we start talking, we start using verbal and nonverbal messages to say, I'm this kind of person in this situation. And notice that when I say I'm this kind of person, however I'm constructing my identity, that has impact on who you are here too. Necessarily. This is true for all of us all the time. So right now I'm talking, who am I claiming to be?
You're in the teacher role.
Okay, I am in the teacher role, and your role does affect your face or your identity goal, but it's not just that. What kind of a teacher am I claiming to be?
Well, go ahead.
I was going to say, what kind of a teacher, is that what you meant?
Yeah, am I claiming to be a good teacher?
You're an expert in the field, is how I consider you. You're an
Ve-
expert in the field. Yeah.
Right. So I'm claiming to be knowledgeable, right? Being an expert means I'm claiming to be knowledgeable. Am I claiming to have more power than you in this situation?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah. Notice I get to talk all I want, and you just have to sit there until unless I call on you, and then you get to talk. So that's just, oh, she's controlling this. So I'm claiming to be more powerful, and I'm claiming to be knowledgeable. Notice I did not walk in here and say to you, I'm knowledgeable and I'm powerful, right? I did not walk in and say that. How did I do it? In how I'm talking. I talked about the studies that I've done. In my entire presentation, again, I get to stand up here, you guys get to sit in the little seats. All of those things say that I'm more powerful too. And notice that I couldn't, if I walked in and said I'm knowledgeable and I'm powerful, that wouldn't make me knowledgeable or powerful, right? We've all known somebody somewhere along the way who was supposed to be knowledgeable and it turned out that you didn't believe they really were knowledgeable. So you can't just say it, you have to do it. You have to enact the identity if you're actually going to pull it off and be whoever you're claiming to be. The identity goals are very, very important. We care a lot about them. This is why people, when people feel they've been dissed or disrespected, that means you're not acknowledging who I'm claiming to be here. And people have been murdered over identity goals, so they're very, very important to us. And I believe identity goals are central to the bullying episodes. What bullying is about who do I get to be here? How can I raise my status in this community, and at the same time I'm lowering your status. So I'm creating an identity for you that's a very uncomfortable identity, very negative one, but I'm getting points here. And certainly Darun Ravi did that. He got to talk to all these people, some of whom he didn't know very well. Let me say a couple of other things about Ravi. Again, where are we? All of the events that I described to you, remember, Darun Ravi and Tyler Clemente were fresh out of high school. They were both 18 years old. All the events that I described to you occurred in the first 3 weeks of their first semester at Rutgers. Turned out to be their last semester. Ravi may go back. Tyler Clemente will never go back, obviously. So his first semester, first 3 weeks, they were paired as roommates by the housing department at Rutgers, which is standard. Eastern does this too. You can sometimes bring somebody with you if they're coming here too, but not always. They did not know each other prior, although we know that Ravi did Google Clemente and again found out a lot of information, including that he was gay. And he tweets and texts about that as well. So they don't know each other. They walk in and they turn out to be roommates. Think about your first, if you can remember, your first few weeks of college, or your kids, if you have kids that are going off to college. What's really important to college students in the first 3 weeks of their first semester? Fitting in, making friends, fitting into this brand new social structure, right? No longer in this nice, comfortable high school structure where they've been there 4 years, they know each other and that sort of stuff. Now I got this huge, it's a bigger social scene. It's a more complex social scene. Who am I here? I haven't had time to establish it. Making friends and figuring out which groups they want to belong to and maybe which groups they don't want to belong to because those are not cool people or whatever. That is a primary goal for brand new college students. They may also be looking for romantic partners, right? They're away from home for the very first time. That can be both anxiety provoking and exhilarating. I can do whatever I want now. Mom and Dad aren't here, so I can try some new things that I didn't get to do before. So it's exciting, but it also has a lot of particular kinds of issues that are very, very important. And I believe the social things are very important. Also instrumental goals, right? Which classes am I going to take? What's my schedule? Living away on my own, taking care of paying the bills, all that sort of stuff. But again, that social structure is crucial for them in the first 3 weeks. And that's what Darun Ravi and Tyler Clemente were facing. And I believe they had tried in the trial to establish that Darun Ravi hated gays or hated Clemente. That was never really fully established. I'm not sure that it's true. What I believe is that Tyler Clemente was very useful to Darun Ravi. That's a horrible thing to think, that all you matter to me is because you're useful, because you're going to allow me to gain status. You're going to allow me to create my identity as this big-time, techno-savvy guy who could do this, and it could do this to you. We can invade your privacy. That gave him social status in that community, and I fully believe that that's what it was about. As much as anything, I believe it was about those identity goals and who that made him on campus at Rutgers. It was actually painful. I watched the whole trial, and it was actually painful to watch these college students who kind of got roped in because he texted and tweeted, and they started coming around and asking, and one watched with him, and they had to testify, and you could see that they were just embarrassed. They are bright and articulate and just your average everyday college student, and here they are trying to explain why they are watching people and why they are tweeting and texting, and it was painful to watch them actually have to deal with that. So given that those are the concerns, that's what Ravi had to use against Tyler Clemente, that he's not socially connected. I am socially connected. I got all these guys to help me, and watching you and doing all of that sort of stuff. So that's really important, the college resources. But it's also true that Ravi and Clemente live in this culture, the United States culture. So if you look on the back of your handout, the U.S. dominant culture is European American. That European American means white. European American heterosexual male. And what is a dominant culture? A dominant culture in any society is the culture, the group that has controlled resources. It's not so much about numbers, how many people. It's who's controlled the power resources in that culture. And so therefore who has access to upward mobility, all of those kinds of things. And so that in this culture, this has been for many years, European American heterosexual male. And among the primary values of that dominant culture are individualism. Do you guys know what individualism is? We make a distinction between cultures. We have individualistic cultures and collectivistic cultures. Individualistic cultures, which we're very individualistic. We see ourselves as independent. We like to see ourselves as independent, not dependent. I'm supposed to go for what I want, right? We teach people to be assertive and go for your goals, try to achieve your goals, and do what's best for you and be assertive about that. In collectivistic cultures, their self-concept comes from the group. So I'm supposed to sacrifice for the group. Whatever's good for the group is what I should do, not just what's good for me. But so we're very individualistic, and again, like to see ourselves as independent, not at all dependent. The second one that I've got listed here is materialistic. Do you believe we're a materialistic culture? Sure. Yes, I know. It's horrible. I get to have the new iPad and the new iPhone and da-da-da-da. I'm very, very materialistic. And materialistic means that it's shown outwardly, right? We got the gadgets, and we got the I still have a flip phone, and it's like, you still have a flip phone? yeah, I do. It works just fine. I don't need anything else. But so we comment on these things. Oh, that's cool, or whatever. So very materialistic. Do you think we're a competitive culture? Extremely so. And competition in this culture is defined as better than another, right? Better than you. And competition to be better than you. Not the alternative is to define competition as better than I used to be. I've achieved this goal now, I've gone farther, I'm getting better, I'm growing on my own. That's a different way of looking at competition than better than you. And in this culture we look at better than you, who's the winner, that sort of thing. The final one is masculine and feminine cultures. Masculine cultures value acquiring things, strength, and control over others and control over things. Those are all valued by masculine cultures.
Do you think particularly those last two, the competitive and the masculine, have an impact, particularly in adults, and I would say college and on? That competitive culture makes it a little difficult to identify and define bullying in college and adults?
I think it does. It makes it difficult to identify. It makes it difficult, and to some degree, I'll tell you, one of the questions I asked college students was, just true or false, do you believe this is true or not? And the question was, college students ought to be able to manage or handle bullying. They're adults, so they ought to be able to handle it. And I got 39% of my sample said yes to that. So that means that even if I saw something going on, even if I did identify it as kind of bullying, a good proportion of the students on campus are going to say, you ought to be able to handle it, you're an adult. And once you realize how embedded bullying is in the structure, then they're not going to be able to handle it, because what this person's done is they've got all these other people against him too. It's not just you and me, it's everybody else is now treating me this way too. But if we believe they should handle it, then we're much less likely to act, right? And I do believe it's harder to identify at the college level. They think you're just messing with somebody or teasing or whatever, and so they don't recognize it very often. Feminine cultures, on the other hand, value nurturing and compassion and equality of sex roles, so that's that contrast as well. And so what you see is, again, with these cultural values, they provide resources for bullying. That's why you can say, I'll take a look at my data too. I'm the techno guy, I got my computer, I can set this all up, I can get to you, which means you're dependent, you're vulnerable, I'm strong, I'm handling all of that. Those are resources then that Robbie could use and that others use in order to be able to bully other people, because that's the cultural community. So when we take those values and the social structure, especially of college, then what do we end up with? And here I want to talk about some of the data that I collected. And again, remember, I did both quantitative questions and qualitative, open-ended qualitative questions. And the quantitative questions, couple that I thought were interesting were concerning prevalence, how much bullying on campus. And I had one question that said, I never observed bullying in my K through 12 years. Only 3.9%, so about 4% of my folks said yes to that. So 97%, 96% said yeah, they saw bullying in K through 12. However, I never observed bullying in my college years, 27.7%. So that suggests less bullying, and again, they may not be as cognizant of it, but it suggests less bullying than in K through 12. So that was interesting. Most also indicated in terms of prevalence, little physical bullying. There's more relational bullying and more verbal, emotional bullying at college than there is physical bullying as well. Beliefs about college, I just told you, 39.4% said that college students should be able to handle it because they're adults. 60% said that bullying in college is much more subtle and hard to define, which is what you're saying, than in K through 12. 58% said sometimes what starts out as teasing turns into bullying. So almost 60% agree that that's true too, which again makes it difficult to define, difficult to recognize for folks. Participation levels in college, only 3% said that they had bullied in college. But then I asked this other question. I think this was really brilliant of me. So I asked, one is I have bullied in college. And then the next one was, I think I did actions that fit the bullying definition, but I didn't see it that way. And I got on that one 16%, as compared to the 3% for I've bullied. And I gave them the definition of bullying, and I gave them the definition of physical, relational, and verbal bullying as well. And then I also said 18% said they have been bullied. Another 16% said, I think someone tried to bully me, but I really didn't see it that way. And 31% said they'd been a bystander. And 14 said, I think I've been a bystander, but I didn't really see it that way or whatever. So hopefully trying to get at some of their experiences that they might not have identified clearly that way, and hopefully now they begin to think, oh, well, maybe I should look at that or do something about that when that happens. Actions taken, this was not really very uplifting. 15% at the college level said, I did not know who or how to report it. And that makes sense if you think about it. I also asked about where does bullying occur on college campuses, and they said, this is not going to be surprising, parties that students attend, bars and restaurants, residence halls, that was indicated. Also parking lots or the rec center, places that are not well supervised or wouldn't necessarily be people around. If it happens in a residence hall, you'd know who to go to, your RA. But if it happens in a parking lot, you don't know who to go to, and certainly at parties and bars. So that was not surprising to me that they would not know how or who to report it to. That's okay, go ahead.
So is there a general understanding that adults should be able to handle bullying then?
Yeah, but again, I got 39.4% said that college students ought to be able to handle it.
Because they're adults?
Yep.
So the general understanding, period, is that adults should be able to handle it?
Well, this is only one sample, and it's 39%, so that's 40%.
I would find that an interesting
It'd be
question to see
interesting to
what they
compare
would
it
say.
to workplace.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm from an HR perspective, sorry.
Oh, well, no, that makes perfectly
So I'm
good.
just kind of curious.
If 40% of college students think that college students should be able to handle it, adults, yeah, they certainly think, you ought to be able to handle it. But once again, if it's embedded in the culture of whatever the company is or whatever the institution is, that doesn't mean they can handle it.
You know, if it fits that bullying criteria, that's difficult stuff, and as an adult, that can be infinitely frustrating.
Right, and I might also, there's some a little bit of some of the research that's on the college level actually concerns faculty, and there's talk about the rising bully culture of faculty, and I have known bullies, faculty bullies, if we think adults should be able to handle it, we also think I should be able to handle it, right? Well, yeah, this was uncomfortable, but yeah, I'm a big girl, I'm a big boy, I ought to be able to manage these kinds of things. And it's only when you start taking a look at, no, it's not just this one person, it's what he's doing with everybody else around that makes this not possible for me to manage on my own.
Well, and not only that, but usually the bully is in a bully environment where the environment itself is set up to let him keep doing whatever he's going to do. And it isn't easy, especially as a woman, to get yourself out of a bully situation. I don't know if it's even any better as a man bullying a man. I don't know if they just go out and duke it out or whatever, but in the workplace for women, it's very difficult to find upper management that you want to deal with it.
I know.
Women's culture.
Pardon me?
Or a man and a woman's culture too. If you want.
Yeah, that's true, that's true. Well, yeah, that's true, that's true.
Well, and yeah, and I don't know about the gender things, but I do know that it is very, very difficult. And if the person who's bullying you is your boss or upward on the higher, what are you supposed to do about it? And
Especially if the power differential is there, that makes it very difficult. And that would be the same for a man or a woman.
And again, some of it's kind of subtle, right? I make this little remark, and it's kind of a little dig, and you think, well, yeah, maybe I just misinterpreted it. Maybe it was just joking, that sort of stuff. And it's only after a long time, a number of remarks, that you begin to think, no, you're doing that to me, and then how can we address that? And it is very, very problematic. Both in the workplace and for our college students as well. Only 7% said they reported to somebody in authority. So that's not, again, that's very low for it's low in K-12 too, but low, I think lower here. They talked to friends about it some. 24% said I intervened personally to change the situation, and some 24%, 24.5, so almost a quarter. And some of them wrote about that in the qualitative data too, and they said they felt really good about themselves when they had intervened, right? Which means that we are doing something to educate and one said, I started doing that in K through 12 because I just wasn't going to allow people to be bullying other people and stuff. And she said, and I've continued up to, I just won't put up with it. I just won't. And that's good. So she felt stronger as a result of doing that as well. Again, 34%, almost 35% said I did not report it. So that means, and we also know EIU had these security people here 2 years ago to assess our security systems and to make the campus more secure was the idea. They at that point said that 75% of crimes on campus are unreported. So not just bullying, but crimes, including violent crimes, go unreported. So not surprising if they're not reporting this, if they're not reporting that, which also says something about some things we need to be doing, I think. What did I find in the qualitative data, which is much more interesting in my opinion? First of all, physical bullying in college. Again, recall there's less of this than as reported than in K through 12. But some of what they are doing in terms of physical bullying is a major concern. The first one, and a major concern, is forcing or coercing drug or alcohol use.
That's rampant.
And it's a huge concern. I had one I had one female, and she wrote a lot about this, and she said, all these people are doing all these illegal things, and they're doing it, and when you're with them, they want you to do it too. And she said, I end up doing it because if you don't do it, they're going to exclude you. They won't let you come anymore to the party or whatever, that sort of stuff. And you're thinking, that's horrible. I mean, that's a major, major kind of concern. So that bothers me a great deal.
And also I work for SACUS, which is the Rape Crisis Center on campus, and the latest stats with sexual assault nationwide on college campuses is 50% is due to fraternities, and another 28 to 38% is male athletes in the athletic department. So this is a national stat. We didn't do this, and they said, so you're looking at roughly 90 to 95% of sexual assaults being attributed to those two groups, but there's always alcohol involved. It's something like 84% of the perpetrators are under the influence, and like 70-some of the victims. And that's aside from your social structure issue here of wanting to fit in.
Well,
finding your group, or going to the cool parties. And we know alcohol is the #1 date rape drug in the country. But when you said that, I thought, well, that just falls right into place.
But you can see how the fraternities and the athletic place, they have their own social structure, and if it's a rape culture structure, then that's how they gain status in those things. And you're going to hear about the sexuality.
That study, I think, came from Harvard University.
Yeah.
Did that study.
I knew that alcohol was usually involved by both. By the way, I have a student who just came to me, and she said she's been going to SACUS, and it's been really helpful. She was sexually assaulted, and I also did some real good work with her because I got her to go to a counselor. I said, keep going to SACUS, that's fine, but EIU has counselors for you, and you've already paid for that. And she went, and she came back, and I could tell she was like, I don't know, counselor. But she came back, and I said, come back afterwards and just let me know how it went. She said, it was better than I thought. And I said, and do I have another appointment? And I said, oh, good. I'm really glad. It was a really, really disturbing incident. I mean, I met with her at 9:30 in the morning, and I walked into my class about 5 minutes late, and I was just disturbed that this happens on Eastern's campus. It's
And it's so underreported.
I know.
It is so underreported, and there's also an increase in male sexual assault against men, and despite the stereotype, it's usually not gay men that do the sexual assault.
No, it's not. No, it's not.
And they even underreport it less than the women, because there's even an additional stigma for men reporting it.
Absolutely.
So if we're seeing an increase, then it's probably more than we know. It's just statistically
Right.
it is, but they're just never going to report it.
And when we get to that part of my data, you'll see at least some explanations for why they wouldn't do that. You're right, the stigma is much, much higher for him.
I mean, it's bad enough for a woman, but it's equally just for men. It's just, yeah, they have their own issues too with reporting it, and that's too bad.
I know.
It's too bad.
I know.
It's
I know.
tragic, actually.
It is sad. I got to tell you, reading my data, during parts of this, I felt like I got to go take a shower. I mean, this is disgusting. You guys are calling each other this. I can't believe it. Anyway, another kind of physical bullying concerns pranks, and there were multiple reports of this, but they didn't go into much description about what a prank might be that they would do. I think we ought to look into that, because I think a lot of times they start with something and they really see it as this fun kind of prank thing that they're doing and not a big deal, and then it goes too far, and then they get themselves into all kinds of difficulties. Throwing drinks or things at someone or at their car. Did I talk about the Chick-fil-A?
No.
Okay.
But I know.
Remember, I just
What
did
else
this.
with Chick-fil-A? No.
You guys know we had this big Chick-fil-A controversy on campus last year. The CEO of Chick-fil-A's, Kathy, he came out with these really anti-gay kinds of things, and we have the Chick-fil-A venue in our food court or whatever. There was an eat-in done by most people from outlying communities. It wasn't Eastern, hardly any. It was in August when the campus, we had finished summer and hadn't started fall. So, yeah. And so again, it was outlying community members. But this controversy went on for a long time. visited the president. We were talking about, what are we doing here? But during that time, some of our LGBTQ members had chicken sandwiches, Chick-fil-A chicken sandwiches, thrown at them and thrown at their cars.
With statements written on the wrappers.
Right. Right. And for me, this again says, take a look at the social structure, because we're providing the resources for the bullying. In any other situation, if you were at Walmart and somebody threw a Chick-fil-A sandwich at your car, you would not make the connection at all. But because of what was going on here and this structure, that was a real clear threat, and it was very, very difficult for those. So again, we're using the resources provided by the structure to create the bullying episode. They also talked about messing, touching, grabbing, playing with someone's hair or clothes, that sort of stuff, which was unwanted by that person. And I counted that as physical bullying too. With relational bullying, that was the second thing I asked about. This is also alive and well here on college campuses. One of the major ways to do relational bullying, as you probably know, is to isolate or exclude the persons from events. And this is concerning both because they are doing this to one another, and both in terms of what kinds of occasions does this happen. They indicated residence halls, parties, bars, and so you'd expect some of that, but also study groups. So people reported that they were a part of a study group and not allowed to come to the study group. Group projects, one person was consistently downed and dismissed and shut up, so you're in the part of the group project, but you don't get to participate, you don't get to talk. That's concerning to me. RSOs, and in particular, I had two standout kinds of comments. One is Eastern has a parent-student association, so if you are a student and you're a parent and you have a small child, we have this nice little association for you, which is good. I was a student parent, and so we can provide support for one another. But this one female reported that she went a couple of times to the Parent-Student Association, and she said, I was not welcomed, I was excluded, my thoughts and my concerns and my ideas were not taken seriously. It's like the hierarchy was already established from the people who are already a part of that group, and they really didn't want to bring in new ideas that would threaten their status in the group, and that's really sad. That means you're not going to get new members, and those people don't feel like they get to be a part. I also heard from a non-traditional student, and Eastern also has a non-traditional student association, and this student was a 46-year-old male, and he said no physical, he didn't see any physical bullying, he didn't see even the verbal stuff. He's 46, he's probably not living on campus, he's probably living somewhere else. But he said, boy, the isolation, exclusion, he said, if you're a non-traditional student, they will not let you participate. I mean, they do not want to hear about you. They think you're too old, and they don't want to let you participate. They don't think you have anything valuable to offer. And he said, he's seen it over and over and over again.
That was the opposite for me.
What?
That was the opposite for me when I was going through.
Was it? Good.
Yeah, I had a great experience with this.
I came here as an undergrad. I was a lot younger then, and I did my graduate degree, but I finished a second graduate degree last semester, being much older. But I was in grad school, so there were a lot of people with me that it was no big deal. But I think if I'd been an undergrad, there would have been.
Well,
I'm not saying it's true for everybody. Again, this was this man's experience. Yeah, no, that's fine. I was also a non-traditional student during part of my undergrad, and I didn't feel that way at all. But if some people are feeling that way, again, they're using it's a youth culture on campus. It's a youth culture in general, and they're using that resource to exclude. Will?
Yeah, I think it's kind of true because I know for my undergrad, at the time that I would have older students, older classmates with me, they kind of felt kind of reserved. They didn't speak as much, and then when they did, the other, like my peers, would kind of make a joke about it.
Yeah.
Like, the old guy or whatever, trying to make fun of them. It's kind of, they do get kind of outcasted. So it's kind of weird seeing like a reverse bullying of younger people bullying the older crowd.
Yeah.
And then also like I'm in grad school now, so now it's kind of reverse because I'm the youngest one in my class, and I'm in class with a lot of older people, and I'm the minority of my class, and like now we're more quiet listening to them talk. And
Okay.
they're looking at us like we're the young guys, like, oh, you know what you're talking about, yeah, we live, you know, like.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird how the script is flipped back and forth.
It does. And notice each time they're using whatever resources are available to them in that cultural community. So what worked with the older people when you were an undergrad doesn't work now for you in graduate school. And that's what I'm arguing. I do want to say a couple of other things. They also do gossip and rumors, and obviously social media is really, really helpful for that.
I had heard last year that there was a website on campus where it was a website you could go and just trash somebody.
Oh yeah.
And I was trying desperately to get somebody to tell me what the URL was of that because I was going to report it. Somebody told me it got shut down, but I was not able to confirm that.
It happens a lot. Like if you're on Twitter, like I know last year there was about 7 of them, at least 8 of them. Like somebody would make an account with like it was like EIU burn page, and then they would just tweet out like they would say like Ashley Jones is whatever, or Ashley Jones slept with whoever. They would just put it out there. It would last for maybe a day or two, and people would retweet it and put it back out. Then they were like, it's kind of embarrassing that everybody would see it on the campus and everybody would be talking about it, texting about it, tweeting about it.
I know. And I'll tell you what they were saying about Ashley Jones, and this is the verbal part of my data. I came up with themes. They gave me words, some conversations, which were really interesting, but a lot of words. The biggest theme, the biggest kinds of terms that they're using with one another concern sexuality. This either concerns sexual behavior or sexual orientation. Both of those were clearly represented, and that was the largest majority of terms used. Bullying toward males. Oh, and I have to tell you, the double standard for males and females with regard to sexual behavior is firmly in place and growing and perpetuating. Yeah, absolutely.
Even the girls are not supporting the girls.
Oh no, they aren't. No. What did they say? For males, sexuality concerns prowess, ability. So the more people he has sex with, and then the bigger guy he is, and the tougher guy he is, and his abilities, and conquest. Was he able to get to conquer and that sort of stuff? So what do? They use sexual orientation kinds of terms. So gay and faggot were used to males. Whatever their sexual orientation doesn't make any difference. They use those against them to say that you're not really this strong guy who's conquesting and all that sort of stuff. Interesting, homo only once. That used to be used a lot. Now only once, and queer not at all, and I believe that's because the LGBTQ community has taken that word over, and that is now a good thing. And so it's interesting, again, culture and history ends up affecting what they can do. Also for the males, we still get this demasculinization of males, so wimp, pussy, grow some balls is one phrase, the B word. Said to a male, and that's again to down him, right? Because the female, it's sexual behavior is not a positive thing. Bullying toward females concerns being used by males, and it also concerns her character. So if she's sleeping with lots of people, that's about her character. So notice again, it's really this old vision of female sexuality as she's being used. Whenever she's having sex, she's being used. So there's no sense of her affirmative, agentive sexuality. I'm doing what I want with mine. There's none of that. What do we get you with? We get you with, and some of these you guys know, slut and whore and thought. Will, do you know what thought is? Yeah. Do you guys know what thought is? See, I'm going to tell you now so you know what this means. It'll be really, really fun for you.
I want to take a shot.
Yeah. No, this one is not that bad. Thought stands for that hoe over there.
Oh, geez.
Yes. So when you hear them, if you hear that word, now you know what it means. And see, look at Will's face. And my students, I told my students, because I was trying to find out what some of this meant, and they're just, oh my God! There's a fun, creative part of it, but again, if it's being used hurtfully, then it is. There's a lot of slut shaming and drama shaming too. Sorostitutes.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, so we take prostitute and we make them sorority sisters, so now we have sorostitutes. So again, you see the structure of this.
For prostitutes.
They don't
Prostitutes.
Yeah. But see, they don't do that because, again, that's not a bad thing for him, but it is for her. A lot of references to oral sex, her being the recipient of oral sex, and I'm not going to say all of these words to you, but I would tell you there are a number of references where they say C-U-M. I'm not going to say that word for you, but that's the first word, and then the second one is like guzzler, and the third one was dumpster, which again you see her being used by, and dumpster is particularly disturbing. It's like she's just trash. She's not anything but used for that sort of stuff. Second major theme, so sexuality was one, second major theme, and big one, ethnicity. Yes, being not European American provides a great resource with which you can bully folks, because that's the dominant culture. And so I also have to say that I had, it was a largely European American sample, so that's true too. There's the usual use of the N-word. I also do not say that word at all. There's the usual use of the N-word, sometimes with sexual adjectives attached to it. Also, I heard we only like light-skinned girls. So you can see even gradations in terms of what ethnic background persons have, or how. Also, I had a male student who said he was talking to his African-American friends. He's African-American, and they were talking about some political issue, and his friend said, "Why are you talking white?" Which is, again, a way to say, you go with our communication codes, or else we can end up bullying you. Third theme was physical appearance. That's probably not surprising for you. Large number of this. A lot of this concerned weight, especially with regard to females, but also usually a fat. The issues around being overweight, but also being too skinny. So some of them, if they were accused of anorexia and that sort of stuff. Also, do you guys know what 150 after 150 means? Guys can only sleep with women over 150 pounds after 150 at night, or a.m., after 150 a.m.
Charming.
And isn't that charming? Isn't that just delightful? And that sounds very fraternity, out of a fraternity kind of thing. And of course, what are they doing at 150? They're in bars and restaurants, and where attractiveness is important. Fourth theme was intelligence or success. You would expect this in college, but again, using words like retard, idiot, dumbass, loser, techno-illiterate. So again, you see that emphasis on techno stuff. Also poor, if somebody is poor instead of being rich. And finally, the last one was psychological or physical disabilities and disorders. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And this is these things ought to call forth empathy. In fact, are being used to bully. So they call each other things immature. They're concerned in college with being seen as mature and adults. So baby, little girl, immature. That's part of it. So that's a psychological thing. But also bipolar. Drama queen, a lot of drama, shaming. Yeah. I also had one person who said that these two young females were in a bar, and that there was a person with some disability, and they were mimicking his posture. I don't know what his posture was, but they were mimicking his posture. And he actually looked up and saw them, and they went over and apologized and just started crying. But a number of my students said, I could not believe people making fun of people with special needs. They use that term a lot. And they said things like, how low can you go? I mean, this is the lowest form of...
Probably pretty loaded for girls.
Yeah.
I guess that we do dumb stuff when we've been drinking.
Well, and again, they're in a bar, so they're trying to be cute. I really believe there's a whole lot to be written and studied about the need to be funny. People believing, oh, this is going to be clever, I'm going to be funny, and that's going to, again, raise my status, and not recognizing how absolutely hurtful that could be. I have tons of more data. Oh, I also have, this is just a little handout I made of a timeline of events for Clemente and Rave, and some of the texts and tweets and stuff. That's one page of it. I don't want to become unattached. Oh, I'm sorry, Will, do you want one?
Yeah.
See what I did, Oh, that's Will's too, but he only got one It's just a timeline, and then on the back of one side I've given you what some of the chats and texts and tweets are, and so you can see also what they were doing with regard to that and the resources that they were using.
Did I remember right with this case, but I remember reading an article where somebody interviewed the parents or something, and I think the parents, my memory was the parents came off more anti-gay than he did, in terms of they kept referring to it as this is just not our culture. Am I allowed?
Oh, the parents of Ravi?
The parents of Ravi.
Um,
They just kept saying this is not our culture, and it's understandable that he felt the way, that he acted the way he did. I thought some reporter interviewed them, and that's...
Well, I know that there was some effort to try to pretend that he didn't know anything about homosexuality, which I found not at all believable. But that no, he doesn't hate them because he doesn't even know anything about them. He doesn't really care about them, and maybe that's...
And I thought the parents contradicted that when some reporter interviewed them, and they came across like, well, that kind of blows the theory he didn't know about it, because his culture is saying, his parents are saying from our culture,
oh, I see what you're saying.
that is not considered a good thing, and therefore, you know, how he acted was appropriate because we don't acknowledge that being gay is
okay.
is okay in our culture. And so I thought, well, then he's had this cultural upbringing in addition to what was going on specifically there in the room on campus.
And we know that all of that's taught. And that brings up a whole issue of, I'm also working with a student on an honors thesis, and he's taking a look at the construction and interpretation of messages about sexual orientation.
Oh, that's fantastic.
It is really, really interesting data, but it also has led to this very, very clear situation of recognizing that we probably don't prepare our heterosexual kids very well with regard to sexual.
Not at all.
Right. With regard to our heterosexual kids, if that's true, if we don't prepare them very well, we prepare our non-heterosexual kids horribly. They may have heard nothing about, their parents may have never talked to them about this. No one else may have talked to them about this. And I have a little bit of data of that because I teach family communication, and we talk about sexuality in the family. But yeah, a ton more needs to be done with regard to that issue and how because if you are not heterosexual, everything that your parents would say. I had this one student who's a gay male student, and we had read this article about giving the talk, so parents giving the talk about sex to the kids, and most of my students say they're really crappy at it. They don't do it very well at all. But this student, he's a gay male student, and he says his dad comes to talk to him about giving him the talk, and he said, yeah, it was really awkward. He said, you know, first of all, I'm not interested in girls, so everything he had to say didn't have any relevance to me whatsoever, but I couldn't tell him that, so it's a complete disaster, and Dad's probably saying, "Whoa, God, so glad that's done and over because I don't want to do it again. I think I did okay." And the kid's saying, "Didn't know anything." So I mean, that's a whole nother area that we need to do more work on. You guys are wonderful. I had fun. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.